Hello, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. We're jumping into week 3 of our coursework here in the Capstone class for Biola. So my goal is I want to give you a short instructional video on what we need to be doing specifically for one aspect of this class. A unique thing I think that is hopefully going to be very, very helpful for you all. Um, and that would be the mock exam that we have to be taking. Now, there is a video that I'm going to be posting about this week's material on estate planning. And so I have what I think is a pretty good summarization of the course materials. And so I'm going to go ahead and post that. You should see that coming out to you. Today is Monday, so you guys are probably all working toward completing your tax planning section. Probably not thinking too much about this next week yet. But estate planning is an important topic, and one that kind of, I think, sometimes gives us an opportunity to look at the heart of our clients as much as many others. In the last year or so, I have been trying to mark a question with my clients who are retirees. And I asked the question, what is the balance between your desire to spend and your desire to give in retirement? As you look forward to charting out your progress, how your retirement will go. When it comes to your assets, especially those that you can spend, your liquid assets, what do you envision you using for your needs, for your pleasure, for your travel, for your living expenses, for long-term care, all of those things? What does that part look like as a percentage of your liquid assets? And what percentage of your liquid assets do you really intend to give away? It could be to your children, it could be to helping out anybody, really, or even to charity. And then, of course, at the end of life, it will all end up with what is remaining go in that direction. And so I found that kind of helpful because we need to dig into the heart of our clients as financial planners. And it becomes an opportunity for us to come alongside of them and help them see. Sometimes you'll hear me talking about the greed fear spectrum. Sometimes that feeds into it, right? The fearful out there are not willing to give as much as maybe they should in their retirement years because they're fearful of running out. The greedy want maybe sometimes, not always, but sometimes to spend it on themselves and enjoy it and live it up because they don't care to give it away necessarily. And so that is one aspect of estate planning that's kind of unique. You'll hear me talking in the video a lot about legacy planning versus estate planning. I always try to reframe the question that we are dealing with a lot heavier things than legacy planning. Estate planning can be a checklist. It's very, very important, but it doesn't give us this opportunity to really feel out the most important things, right? They should all align, legacy and estate planning. But once we get into legacy planning, we start to learn a little bit more about those things which our client value the most, that they want to make sure are transferred. It's not always money. Sometimes it's lessons or important things that they want to give to their kids. So that being said, I want you to watch through that video that I posted a year or two ago from the last time we had taught. So yeah, a rundown of module 1. I've begun reading through those lessons and so or those assignments. You had the initial intake documents, which for me, I want to see that you are creating a sense of formality with your clients, but also a tone, right? You're establishing a tone through the verbiage that you're able to write down. And consider this, right? Like in the end, you will be asked to present this And at that point, you can be a little more verbose. You can speak through things about ideas that maybe are a little bit more terse, quicker, with summarization in words, right? When you're writing them down. So you don't need necessarily to explain everything to the final detail, in these assignments. And again, are you able to find like an orderliness to the flow of how you, especially the cash flow aspect, right? And so one thing that's kind of hard and doesn't necessarily isn't clearly written maybe in the instructions, but I always begin planning with assumptions, right? We have to do our best to establish the baseline for our clients before we can move forward, right? And so a client, oftentimes they won't even know, right? You could just dive into a plan and explain the plan, and it is what it is. But those people who are a little more well educated, I always say the engineer in the room, right, who's very interested in the behind the scenes things, it's going to help them if you establish assumptions, right? And so, like, we're building a plan off of X, Y, and Z assumptions, retirement dates, return expectations for the market, inflation expectations, right? The rising cost of healthcare or education, or things that are a little more, right? Write those down. And again, recommendations, you'll probably hear me say this a lot. I'll probably write this in the notes side of your assignments a lot. Recommendations aren't meant to be prescriptive, right? We're not just a doctor here that is holding our little tab, right? And we're writing down a prescription to hand it to you to fix your problem. That's not how financial planning works. It doesn't work very well that way, at least. It's more about having the client grow in an understanding and ownership, right, of the path forward for them to establish purpose and freedom in their financial plan. And so just keep that in mind, right? Because it can be bogged down if you're prescriptive, if you're too wordy, if you have too many recommendations. In the end, you're only going to be allowed, a top 10 or 15 for all of the aspects of financial planning, right? So you're going to have to choose these things matter the most. Do they align well, right, with the Lopez plan, right? Is the Lopez's are saying, hey, honestly, they're screaming a little bit like, we don't feel like we have a very well-run financial household for cash flow planning. So a lot of those cash flow ideas are going to like seep through the aspect of their plan, right? Whether it be through tax planning, estate planning, retirement planning, uh, it will it will matter. And so it's good that we really intend to make sure we're off to a good start with the basics of budgeting, money in, money out, helping them establish margin. And that's like my go-to, honestly, anymore with financial planning. What is the goal here? The goal is to help people create margin, right? Margin is how they are able to grow a cash cushion to save for retirement, to save for long-term goals, and to provide for their welfare and also bless others with giving in a generous and radical way. So keep that in mind. All right, I'll talk more on the tax planning section as I get through that, but I'll be grading these first modules probably, hopefully today and tomorrow in the next few days. I've been a little busier with schedules, so it will hopefully be able to get through the other assignments a little faster than this first one. All right, so we will need to take a CFP mock exam that is run through Zahn. Zahn is a CFP test prep company. Okay, and so I will be sending you an email or a message, an announcement very soon that's going to detail the aspects of what we want you to do. But basically, you're going to go to this website, which I will have linked. Okay, it is the Zahn website. Here we go. And then you will type in the password, which I'll give you, and then your email, your first name, last name. And at that point, you will be able to take the exam. Okay. And I want to kind of go over some details here that I have up. So it says um, you will be it should be opened to start taking the test sometime this week. But the testing window will close on Thursday, April 2nd. All right. We'll be working with Rodney Jarrell. He's a CFP who does CFP test prep. And so the whole point is for you guys to get a good idea and feel of what this test is like. Okay. We will actually be like doing a Zoom meeting with him um, on, let's see, it'd be 3 to 4:15 Eastern time on Monday, 4/6. That's the day after Easter. So that's actually that should be at noon for you, I believe, on the West Coast. And I will say that I would like for us to do our best to have some students that attend that, because he's, of course, outside coming in. It would be really good to have it well attended. I think a lot of you will have some good questions as well as follow up after you get your results, right? So the goal then would be that should be able to send the results. But the test itself is actually, I think, comes in like different sections depending on the CFP section that you're taking. Yeah, 6 exams with 10 question each and an estate plan based on a case study, right? So that is something that we need to keep track of, all right, and do our best to follow. And so I'll be sending this out in an announcement. We'll wanted to talk over it in greater detail to you because this is an important part of this class to be able to take one CFP mock exam, very helpful for those of us, hopefully almost all of us, right, that will be going forward and taking the exam in the future. So again, there's 2 videos again this week. This one's kind of just a summarization, but then the next one will go over in greater detail estate planning. Again, reach out if you have questions. I've had some students reach out asking to, speak and just kind of go over some questions and details. I love that. It's about feedback and about communication, right? When it comes to learning things. And so that buy-in is really what it's all about. You could probably go, snooze through this class, not snooze through. You can probably do all the things you need to and do it well and, get your grade and move on, right? But it is an opportunity, at least, to be able to also have some, conversation with me as a practitioner, as someone who's in the field. And yeah, I think back to all the little situations and examples for estate planning, right? Since that'll be your next week's assignment. And sometimes those are the hardest conversations I've ever had with clients. And it sometimes is a joy to have this job, but sometimes it's also heavy, right? And so dealing with someone who's lost a loved one, who's coming in to get advice and didn't have life insurance, and now they're, a single parent raising children and that kind of stuff is real. And so sometimes just having that be able to converse with me about how you deal with the counseling side of this job is really important too, right? And so I know it's hard. It's hard as you build out a plan to get that and put that into a paper, especially when you're just reading a case and then putting the case information onto an assignment page. Sometimes we lose the real human element of what we're doing, right? And there's a lot of, like I said, counsel, therapy that comes up very often in this field. And so, yeah, I would love to have more conversations with you guys about those things if you're interested in digging into it. I know we're all busy. We're all trying to juggle 100 different things in life, but really appreciate those students who are able to reach out and follow through on different things, have to just ask questions or just be an inquisitive mind. That's what it's all about. Thank you guys. See you soon.